I cannot pin down one African icon who has inspired me because there has been so many that have shaped me into who I am today. My first lesson on African history really came from the Sugar Hill neighborhood inside the Donna Liggins Center, which was formerly known as the Northwest Center. And that rec center resides in the heart of the Sugar Hill neighborhood. So as a child growing up in the early 90s, I was a lot of the time left to my own devices with my brother inside the Northwest Center, where my dad was a volunteer serving the elderly in the neighborhood food. And at the entrance of the Northwest Center is an African history mural that every time I was there, I got to just gaze upon it and really think about the different aspects of it. So on the left side of the mural are basically illustrations of life before we got to America. It starts with an illustration of like Egypt, ancient Egypt, and they depict the ancient Egyptians as Black Africans, which is not something that I saw later on in school, where they're kind of whitewashed more. And so that was really formidable for me to see that, along with other different motifs out of West Africa. And in the middle of the mural, it kind of goes into the Atlantic Passage and the horrors of slavery that we had to endure, that our ancestors had to endure. And so, those images were like, I could still see each part of that mural really clearly in my mind, and it's still up today. And I visited it yesterday. But really on the right side kind of shows more contemporary African-American history and African history in general. The artist paints more than 30 Africans who were successful in their fields like sports, politics, education. And a few of those people who later on, when I got to be like in middle school and high school, I kind of learned more in depth about them. Some of those people are Marcus Garvey, Haile Selassie, Dr. Martin Luther King, and of course, Malcolm X. And really, Malcolm X, I would say, has been the biggest influence on my life. I was given his autobiography by my father in middle school. I think I was in 6th grade. And, I didn't read it completely at that time, but like I did skim through it. And in high school is when I finally completed my first reading of his autobiography. Since then, I've read it a couple more times just because there's so many gems within that book, really about, how your current conditions aren't always going to set the stage for how your life is going to end up. Malcolm X is really, I think, a person that the youth should learn about in schools because, in his beginning years, he got into some trouble. And I don't believe he even ended up graduating from high school. But as we know, that didn't stop him from succeeding and becoming, a giant later on in his lifetime. And to come back to the mural, I think it's really important for us to all think about as Black History Month approaches and goes by, that, African history is not just American history, it's world history. And we really need to center that world history part, I feel, when we're studying African American history and when we're talking and like celebrating African American History Month, because there's so much that we don't know as African Americans about the past, about who we were before we were enslaved. And I think that if we focus more on who we are now and before slavery, it will have a tremendous impact on our psyche and the development of youth and our ability to kind of change and overcome our current conditions. So thank you.